Hi-Fi Rush was self-released at the end of January. It's the latest game from the Evil Within developer Tango Gameworks. And while this game looks nothing like that, it is a fantastic action game that almost delivers a perfectly picturesque performance, if not for just one bit of a record-scratching moment. We play as Kai, a wannabe rocker who gets a robotic arm from your friendly neighborhood mega corporation. Unfortunately, it turns out that said corporation is evil and is plotting to take over the world, and it's up to us, a motley crew of misfits, and a lot of popular and licensed music to save the day. The combat system of Hi-Fi Rush draws from the same school as Bayonetta and Devil May Cry, with an emphasis on looking cool, moving around, and dodging all kinds of things coming your way. Where the twist of this game comes in is that the entire game is tied to a beat, and the beat itself is dependent on each level. As you perform commands to the beat, you'll gain more damage, you'll be able to dodge further, and generally you'll just look cooler while doing it. One thing that I really do appreciate that the game did is that for combat, if you just time your attack button presses to the swings themselves, you will get just timings just for that. It may not be, absolutely perfect, but it will be more than enough to get you through the variety of challenges. And this is one of the good things about Hi-Fi Rush, that it is by far the most visually indicating of kind of the rhythmic-based games that we've seen, games such as Metal Hellsinger and BPM. And this works to a point that I'll come back to in the back half of this video. But the game itself introduces all the good action game staples. Levels are huge, with a variety of items to find, upgrades. You'll unlock special moves, standard moves, as well as partner-specific team-ups. Each one of your friends can be used to do a specific kind of damage or counter a specific kind of enemy. And this can become very useful in the back half of the game when you can kind of just mash super and get them all to join you to do a lot of damage to either an individual or to a group of enemies. Now, as you probably have seen by now, the aesthetics of this game are wonderful, and I love the transition from kind of 3D to animation to 2D that the game does from time to time. And there is certainly a lot to this game, including kind of a New Game Plus mode, post-game content, and of course finding all the hidden MacGuffins and collectibles in the world. Now, as the game goes on, you're going to be introduced to a variety of enemies and challenges, and this is where things get a little spiky for Hi-Fi Rush. And as I said in the Singer, it worked for me almost 100%, if not for one little feature that I feel kind of cuts at the game's message of allowing you to kind of get by on visual indication and not be so much punished if you don't have rhythm. But we'll talk about that next. But first, a quick break, and if you're interested in my thoughts on design, then check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have Hi-Fi Rush study, definitely changes between the beginning, middle, and end of the game. Different genres, and with when you make it into the halfway point, it definitely takes a turn for becoming very spiky in terms of how much the game is going to push the beat timing onto you, whether you want it to or not. And that comes in the form of the parry. When the parry gets introduced, by pressing the B button if you're using an Xbox controller, you're able to properly block specific attacks that come at you. This doesn't sound too bad at first, until you meet the new elite enemies. You'll start to run into enemies who, when they're about to be killed, they activate kind of an ultra move. And the ultra move comes in the form of a specific beat timing that you must follow perfectly in order to avoid damage and beat them. If you do it right, if you do it perfectly, then the enemy is set up for an instant kill. However, if you miss any point of it, the enemy will repeat the pattern again. And this becomes very challenging if you're not good at the timing, because it's no longer built on the level beat, but on the enemy's own specific beat. So these samurai enemies cause me a lot more trouble than it reasonably should have. And this is the first time that the game will throw these challenges at you where you cannot rely on visual indicators. While you do get a visual representation before they do the combo, that does not stay up while the combo itself is going on. And I was starting to get kind of like PTSD flashbacks to trying to play Space Channel 5. And this kind of system becomes more and more apparent as you get further in. Boss fights will activate their own unique combos, and if you do not do it right, you will not be able to move on to the next phase. And this feels, I think, very unfair for this game. I would have preferred some kind of a pity system, or a more accessible option that if, let's say, you get it like 75-80% like 2 or 3 times, just let the player move on. And the thing is, because it's all beat timing, this is not exactly something that you can learn, because each enemy has their own unique combo. It's just more or less a game of Simon Says. And it really does take some of the charm out of Hi-Fi Rush in the back half of the game. And it's such a shame too, as it was doing so well up until that point. Now, with that said, I did beat this game on very hard difficulty. And I have to say, if you do run into trouble, the energy drink super that gives you health back is a lifesaver. So much in terms of being able to tank some of these enemy encounters. The only other issue that I have with the game is I wish that the dodge that improves your speed could be done a lot more outside of combat, simply because moving around trying to explore is a bit on the slower side, as Kai's own movement, or just running around, is tied to the beat as well. So even with those complaints, Hi-Fi Rush is still a fantastic action game. If you're good at rhythmic timing-based combat, this is an easy must-play. And I do hope we see more of this world and more of this design from developers, as they certainly, I think, nailed it almost, 100% on their first go. I'm going to run out of adjectives to describe how much I love the general feel of it. And if I can beat a rhythmic-based game, then I think every one of you watching this can certainly do that as well. So with that said, thank you so much for watching this review. Do the liking, subscribing, commenting, and bell ringing. If you'd like me to take your game for a future review, please get in touch. Check out the Discord and Patreon link down below, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games.